Boston, a chilly autumn afternoon. Red maple leaves carpeted Copley Square like a natural rug, quivering gently in the breeze. The bells of Trinity Church tolled long and low, their echoes weaving through the glass towers of Back Bay, reflecting the pale gray sky. Beside a gleaming limousine, Ryan Delgado, once a soldier, now a chauffeur and event security guard, checked his watch. Only 15 minutes remained before the high society wedding began. Then he heard it, the rustle of a bridal veil, a muffled sob from the small room behind the church. It was not the nervous excitement of a bride. It was the sound of despair. Ryan hesitated. In today's role, he was supposed to wait for orders. But with the instincts of a father who had once lost his wife, who had learned to recognize real pain, he knew something was wrong. If a woman wanted to flee her own wedding day, what would you do? Turn away, letting her be swallowed by the machinery of family pressure, media, and ambition? Or reach out your hand, accepting that a single moment might change both of your lives forever? Tonight, in the midst of Boston's autumn, a reckless choice could open the door to a journey no one had foreseen. This is not merely the story of a runaway bride, but of courage, of truth, and of a Boston you've never seen before. The final chime faded, leaving the stone courtyard before Trinity Church steeped in a taut silence. Outside, guests began gathering. Autumn coats, elegant suits, white satin ribbons fluttering lightly in the wind. Inside, rows of wooden pews stood neatly aligned beneath the soaring vaults, stained glass splashing pale daylight across the nave. Everything had been arranged for perfection, except for that faint, irregular sound leaking from the small room behind the church. Ryan Delgado stood beside the limousine, his gloved hand tightening unconsciously. He was accustomed to waiting. Today's job was simple: drive the bride from the ceremony to the hotel. Just another contract. But what made him pause wasn't the ticking of his watch. It was the soft scrape of a bridal veil against wooden floors, followed by a strangled sob. He looked up at the heavy wooden door where the sound bled through. His heart pounded, replaying the old soldier's dilemma he'd faced 1,000 times since discharge: obey orders or follow instinct. Slowly, he stepped closer, tapping 3 light knocks. "Ma'am? Are you all right?" The sobbing cut off. A dense silence swallowed the corridor. Then the door creaked open a sliver. Light spilled out, illuminating the face of Claire Hastings, CEO of Harbor Light Security, the woman Boston's press hailed as the Queen of Cybersecurity. But tonight, her flawless makeup streaked into dark lines beneath her eyes. The pristine Vera Wang gown, worth tens of thousands, bore wrinkles from her clenched fists. I can't do this," Claire whispered. Her voice trembled, as if confessing a secret never spoken aloud. "He doesn't love me. For 2 years now. It's all been a performance. I just saw his message to the best man. Everything is about money, status. I'm nothing but a wallet." Ryan met her gaze. Behind the smeared mascara was the panic of a brilliant woman cornered into despair. A sigh slipped out, visible in the crisp autumn air. "You can't walk back into that chapel like this," he said quietly. "And if you truly want to leave, I can take you." "No one needs to know," Claire froze. In her tear-filled eyes, shame and a flicker of hope fought fiercely. "You don't understand. My mother, all the guests, the media. If I walk away, it will be an explosion. A scandal that destroys everything." "Maybe," Ryan lowered his voice, his pulse racing. "But if you stay and destroy your life in a false marriage, that's an explosion that lasts a lifetime." The words cut like a blade through the suffocating fog. Claire trembled, her hands clenching her gown until her knuckles whitened. At that moment, hurried footsteps echoed down the front hall. A bridesmaid's voice rang out. 5 minutes. Claire, everyone's waiting. Claire glanced in panic toward the sound, then back at Ryan. He stood steady, his gaze free of urgency or judgment, only the quiet certainty of a man who had lost everything and understood the weight of a choice. Back door, Ryan said quickly. There's a service corridor that leads to the slate yard by Copley. If you want to go, go now. The moment hung suspended. Claire gave a small nod. Without a word, Ryan pushed the door wider, draped his black coat over her shoulders, and led the way. The corridor was narrow and dark, smelling of old wood and lingering candle wax. Their breaths mingled in the chill, echoing faintly. Stained glass light spilled patches of blue, purple, and crimson across the floor, making Claire's gown shimmer oddly in the gloom. Her heels struck against the stone like a ticking clock. Ryan halted at a junction, ears straining. Outside, the crowd was stirring, church bells tolling the hour. He raised a hand in signal. Claire held her breath, pressing against the wall, her heartbeat pounding like a drum. They waited until the bridesmaids passed, then darted through a side door. The outdoor air rushed in, heavy with damp maple leaves and autumn wind. Copley Square burned red beneath their feet like a sea of fire. Ryan gripped the keys tight, unlocking the limousine. Claire sank into the back seat, her trembling hands gathering her gown, eyes still fixed on the church, where the crowd remained unaware. The car door closed, sealing off the noise outside. Inside the dim cabin, only their ragged breathing remained. Then Claire's phone buzzed violently. Once, twice, 3 times. The screen lit up. Joanna Hastings. Where are you? Immediately after. Alexander Beaumont. We can fix this. Just come back. Claire stared at the screen, her hand clutching white-knuckled. In the rearview mirror, Ryan's eyes watched silently, waiting. The wheels had not yet turned, but the choice was already rippling forward. The limousine glided down Boylston Street, merging into the sparse stream of autumn traffic. Through the glass, Back Bay's gleaming towers reflected the pale sky, before receding as Ryan steered toward Mass Avenue, crossing the bridge into Cambridge. Claire sat motionless in the back seat, her hands clenched so tightly on the satin fabric they had turned white. The phone kept ringing, Joanna Hastings and Alexander Beaumont's names flashing again and again. Each chime stabbed like a needle in her chest. At last, she exhaled sharply and pressed the power button. The screen went dark. A heavy silence reverberated inside the car. In the rearview mirror, Ryan caught her gaze. No more streaming tears, only exhaustion. He spoke softly, decisive yet without judgment. You need somewhere quiet. Not a hotel. Not your home. I know a place. Claire asked nothing more. She only nodded faintly, as though all strength had been drained away. The car wound through Cambridge, past the signature red brick streets, where deep green ivy crawled across old facades. Wind swirled red and gold maple leaves into brief whirlpools before scattering them across the pavement. Ryan pulled up before a small cafe tucked into Brattle Street, near Harvard Square. Its weathered wooden sign creaked in the breeze, the scent of freshly roasted beans drifting through the door. He stepped out, opened the rear door. Claire hesitated a beat, then gathered the vast folds of her gown and stepped down. Her hand trembled as it touched the brick ground. The grandeur of Trinity Church only minutes earlier seemed to vanish, replaced by a quiet patio draped in vines, plain wooden tables and chairs beneath trellises of flowers. A gust of wind cut through, making Claire shiver. Ryan slipped off his black uniform jacket and laid it over her shoulders. It hung loose, carrying the scent of soap and faint, stale coffee. Almost unconsciously, Claire removed her diamond earrings, each stone glittering, and set them on the wooden table. Then she pulled a napkin and firmly wiped away the smudged mascara beneath her eyes. The gesture stripped away every layer of Harbor Light's CEO, every trace of Bride of the Year. She was only a woman gasping for breath after running away. Ryan watched, keeping the respectful distance. He knew better than to cross professional lines. Yet the same instinct, the kindness that had made him pause at that church door, pushed him to speak. You don't need to apologize for running. Sometimes saving yourself is the bravest thing you can do. Claire looked up. Her eyes were rimmed red, yet glimmering, as though she herself was startled to hear those words from a stranger. You say that like you've run before. Ryan gave a weary half-smile. No, I stayed, and lost more than I imagined. The silence that followed was heavy. Claire didn't press further, but his distant gaze, half-shuttered, betrayed a memory still raw. The waiter brought out 2 steaming cappuccinos. Claire wrapped her hands around her cup, letting warmth seep into chilled skin. Slowly, she murmured, "All my life, I've never sat like this." No phone, no calendar, no assistant counting every minute. Just sitting. Ryan nodded, his voice steady and low. Harder than most people think, isn't it? Claire let out a thin smile, part bitter, part relieved. Terrifying. But also free. Her words faded as Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, brow furrowing. Nina's school. She has a fever. They need me to pick her up. He looked up, conflicted. I'm sorry. I'll call another car for you. Claire tightened her grip on the cup. The words left her lips impulsively, before reason could catch them. Let me come with you. Ryan blinked. Come with me? To pick up my sick 8-year-old? I don't think... Claire cut him off, then slowed, hearing the selfishness in her own voice. I can't go home. And I can't sit here alone. I can't face my mother or Alexander right now. But I understand. It's your family time. She fell silent, eyes lowered. Ryan studied her for a long moment. For once, the professional guard he had held all day seemed to ease. He gave a small nod. All right. But let's be clear. My home isn't like the places you're used to. No glass rooftops, no staff. Just an old apartment and a kid who asks too many questions. For the first time, Claire let out a genuine smile, fragile but real. Right now? That sounds more perfect than anything I have. The car pulled up before the red brick elementary school. Windows were plastered with children's drawings, paper maple leaves taped along the hallways. Ryan strode inside to sign papers, his low voice speaking with the nurse. Claire stood outside, still draped in her black coat over the wrinkled wedding gown, drawing curious glances. The door swung open. A little girl with soft black hair, her face carrying Ryan's features, half-lidded from fever, stepped out. She rushed into her father's arms. "Daddy!" Then, lifting her head, her eyes fell on the unfamiliar woman, dressed in a crumpled white gown under a man's jacket. Claire tried to offer a gentle smile. The girl blinked, then whispered softly. An innocent question that pierced the fragile moment. "Are you a lost princess?" The image froze. Cambridge's red bricks, autumn leaves swirling in the wind, a child's wide-eyed gaze, marking the first moment Claire Hastings became part of a world wholly unlike her own. Back Bay greeted them with the soft glow of street lamps, golden light washing over the bare trees lining the sidewalks. The limousine stopped before a 3-story brownstone, its iron spiral staircase curling up to a small apartment. No guards, no red carpet, only the distant rumble of the subway and the chill wind sweeping across the steps. Ryan carried Nina in his arms, the child nuzzling into his neck, cheeks flushed with fever. Claire followed, her wedding gown still peeking out from beneath the oversized black coat. Each creaking wooden step exposed her to a world she had never entered before. The apartment opened into modest space. A small living room joined to the kitchen, an old wooden table, a worn sofa. A desk lamp with tungsten light cast a warm circle that pushed back the autumn chill. On the shelf sat a framed photo of a gentle, dark-haired woman beside a bouquet of dried flowers. Claire recognized her instantly. Lydia Delgado. The presence of the past lingered quietly, a reminder that this was a place carrying unhealed wounds. Ryan laid Nina on the sofa, tucked a blanket over her, gave her medicine. The girl forced her eyes open, staring at Claire. After a moment's hesitation, Nina whispered, "You're a princess, but a princess who knows how to say sorry, right?" Claire froze. The child's simple but piercing words struck like an arrow. She knelt down, pressing her cool hand over the small one burning with fever. "Yes, and today I learned that even a princess must be brave when she takes the wrong path." Nina gave a tiny nod, then slipped into sleep. Ryan moved silently into the kitchen, the clatter of knife and board breaking the quiet. Claire stood awkwardly, her white gown cumbersome in the cramped apartment. "Do you have anything I could change into?" The question fell clumsily from her lips. Ryan disappeared briefly, returning with an old NYU t-shirt and soft sweatpants. Not elegant, but probably more comfortable than a wedding dress. In the tiny bathroom, Claire looked into the mirror. Her makeup had melted away, her diamond earrings left behind in Cambridge, the faded t-shirt, the baggy sweatpants. Yet the reflection gave her an unexpected relief. No CEO, no flawless bride. Just a woman learning to breathe. When she emerged, the coffee table was set with a Monopoly board. Nina, propping her chin on her hand, eyes weary but determined, said, "Play with me. Daddy told me to rest, but I want to teach the princess the rules." Claire laughed, truly laughed, the sound ringing out for the first time all day. She sat cross-legged on the carpet, in oversized clothes, taking the dice. From the kitchen, Ryan glanced out, caught off guard by the sight. The female CEO on the floor, hair tied back, laughing helplessly as she lost to an 8-year-old. From the kitchen, steam rose from chicken soup, the scent of onions and celery filling the room. Ryan brought 3 bowls to the coffee table, awkwardly saying, "Not fine dining, but Nina likes to eat on the sofa when she's sick." Claire tasted the first spoonful, warmth flowing down her throat into her chest. She froze. This sensation was foreign, almost unfamiliar. Someone cooking for her not for contracts, not for appearances, not for money. Nina chewed bread, beaming, "I just bought Boardwalk." "Careful, princess. Rent's expensive." Claire laughed again, tears pricking at her eyes, not from sadness, but from release. Later, as Nina slept soundly on the sofa, Ryan cleared the dishes. Claire stood before the photo on the shelf. Lydia, smiling brightly outdoors, hair tied loosely. Below, the dried bouquet, withered but still intact. "She's beautiful," Claire whispered. Ryan froze, his shoulders tightening. A silence lingered. Lydia always believed the world could be better. She passed after 18 months fighting cancer. I only kept going because of Nina. Claire looked at the photo, then at Nina curled under the blanket. Lydia's presence filled the apartment like a scar Ryan carried. And in that moment, Claire realized her hidden fear, that she was just a passing gust of wind, unable to belong in a family portrait already marked by loss. Late night. Ryan had shut off the kitchen, drawn the curtains, leaving the golden desk lamp glowing over the small living room. Claire stood by the low window, gazing out at Back Bay rooftops. Boston seemed to fold into itself, quiet beneath the street lamps and scattered maple leaves. Her phone buzzed in the coat pocket. The screen lit up. Mei Chen. A short message. Media storm is rising. You need to decide how to face it. Claire tightened her grip on the phone, her chest heavy. She turned back to Nina, hair spilling across the pillow, cheeks flushed pink. Then to Ryan, slumped with fatigue at the kitchen chair. Her breath came heavy. But in her eyes, resolve began to surface. Tomorrow, Claire Hastings would return to her Boston, not to pretend perfection, but to face it. The storm outside had only just begun, and for the first time, she wanted to stand at its center. The next morning, Boston was no longer as calm as the night in Back Bay. When Claire unlocked her phone, the screen flooded with headlines. Harbor Light CEO flees Trinity Church wedding. Alexander Beaumont abandoned before guests at Copley Square. Tech billionaire or runaway princess? Hastily snapped photos from guests' phones filled the feeds. Claire, in her white gown, eyes red, slipping out through the church's side door. Beneath the bold text, comments exploded. Some sympathetic, others mocking, still more speculating about a nervous breakdown. Her phone buzzed. Joanna Hastings was calling. Claire hesitated, then picked up. Claire, her mother's voice was taut as a wire. You've disgraced the entire family. All our relatives, the whole city, they're laughing at us. You must fix this immediately. Appear before the press, say you were in shock, but that you're ready to reconcile. Alexander already told me. He's willing to forgive if you come back. Claire gripped the armrest. Mother, he never loved me. All he wanted was the company, the money, the status. And you want me to return to that? Reputation is more important than fleeting feelings, Joanna replied coldly. You cannot think only of yourself. You owe both the Hastings name and Harbor Light a flawless image. The call ended in a heavy sigh. Claire sat motionless, as though yanked back into the old shackles, the perfect bride syndrome, the cage she had carried too long. Harbor Light's headquarters rose in a block of blue glass, gazing down at the Charles River, glinting in autumn sunlight. Claire stepped through the lobby, staff eyes trailing her, curious, cautious. Whispers, indistinct yet sharp enough, weighed down her stride. In the boardroom high above, Siraj Ahmed, chairman of the board, sat upright, fingers interlaced. Before him, the security dashboard blinked, social mentions spiking, brand trust charts plunging. Claire, Siraj began, calm but cutting. The question is not your private life. The question is whether your personal crisis is bleeding into a multi-billion-dollar security company. Claire lifted her gaze, feeling the board's eyes pierce like blades. I understand the concern. But Harbor Light is not threatened by my personal decision. The products, the clients, the team, everything still functions. Siraj neither nodded nor shook his head. He tapped a finger lightly on the table. A CEO is the face of a company. In security, trust and stability are the greatest assets. If you are seen as unstable, then client confidence falters. At the corner, Mei Chen, her closest aide, opened a laptop. The calendar was clogged with back-to-back meetings. Solid red. We can't dodge this. Every moment of silence will be read as weakness. The only way to douse the fire is to walk straight through it. Speak clearly, honestly, but control the message. Claire looked at May, feeling as if she were the only ally left on her side. Honesty, meaning admitting I ran from a false marriage. Yes, May nodded. Admitting isn't failure. It's the ability to protect yourself. We sell trust in security. No one believes in a CEO who won't even defend herself. The words silenced the room. Siraj tilted his head, eyes weighing. The risk is great. But if you can stand firm, it will prove leadership. Claire, this is your chance to show that emotion exists, but reason still steers the wheel. Claire drew a deep breath. Before her, dashboards still flickered. Mentions, retweets, headlines screaming. But instead of seeing a wave ready to drown her, for the first time she sensed it as a test, to see whether she could lead with truth. Leaving the boardroom, Claire stood by the great glass window, gazing down at the Charles bending beneath the sun. The water flowed quietly, like time unceasing. A question echoed inside her. Had she lived her whole life for others? Her mother, Alexander, the elite circles, the board, all wanted a perfect Claire, without cracks. But last night, in a cramped apartment, with a child asking, "Do princesses know how to say sorry?" she had glimpsed another self, imperfect but real. For the first time, she felt hope, and perhaps, for the first time, she had something worth protecting beyond the company and reputation. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. "Nina drew you a picture. She says a princess needs a new castle, not a church." Claire laughed, a small but genuine smile warming her chest. She saved the drawing, her heart lightening a little. But at that very moment, a push notification lit up from a tabloid. A paparazzi photo of Claire in Ryan's black coat, sitting on the Brattle Street patio, mascara smeared, earrings on the table. Headline, "Boston's Tech Queen or Affair with the Chauffeur." The smile vanished. Claire clenched the phone, knowing the media storm had officially reached the most private corners of her life. And there was no turning back. The weekend arrived on a brisk autumn wind. Ryan agreed to Claire's invitation, reluctantly, but unable to resist Nina's excitement. "Daddy, the princess is really coming, right?" the little girl chirped all morning, clutching her small blue-painted model boat. Claire appeared in the parking lot, wearing a pale gray sweater and a navy scarf. No trace of the wedding gown or CEO aura remained, only a woman whose face was scrubbed clean of every layer of makeup. Ryan paused, struck. Simple, yes, but radiating a different kind of light. Close and real. They chose Jamaica Pond, the wide lake in southern Boston, its surface carpeted with drifting red and gold leaves, rippling as the wind skimmed across. Nina's model boat cut the water slowly toward the lake's center, reflecting the sun's glimmer. Claire crouched beside her, wool gloves carefully steadying the control line. "Don't pull too hard. The wind will tip it," she cautioned. Nina grinned, eyes sparkling. "I have a teammate now. I'm not afraid." Ryan stood behind, arms crossed, his gaze softening. But inside, he stayed guarded. Every warm moment like this made him fear his daughter would cling too quickly and be hurt when it all fell apart. As the three watched the little boat, a familiar figure appeared on the lakeside path. Alexander Beaumont, in a pale gray pinstripe suit, long coat, hair combed immaculately in place. His eyes, icy, fixed straight on them. Claire saw him first, her face tightening. Ryan turned too, instinctively stepping between her and Alexander. "Claire." Alexander's voice was smooth, laced with mockery. "What should I call you now? The runaway queen? Or stepmother to an 8-year-old?" Nina blinked, confused, clinging tightly to Claire's hand. Claire straightened, drew a deep breath. "Alexander, you have no right to interfere anymore. I've made my choice." "Choice?" He gave a sharp laugh, his eyes flicking over Ryan from head to toe. "A chauffeur in an old sweater, living in an apartment smaller than your shoe closet? Claire, you were born for negotiation tables, not park benches. Don't drag yourself down from your class." Ryan's fist tightened, but his voice remained steady. "Class doesn't nurse a child through a fever. It doesn't console a woman when she's crying. Some values can't be measured by the Beaumont name or a Forbes ranking." Claire looked at him, pride and fear surging at once. She knew Ryan wanted to shield Nina's world, to keep their simple life from being shredded by the media. But it was also he, with such plain words, who made her want to speak the truth openly. "Alexander," she replied, eyes locked, "you always thought I needed you to prove my worth. The truth is, I found that worth without you. And it's not in your bank account." Alexander's face hardened. His voice dropped, cold. "Careful. Boston's media can turn anyone into a spectacle, especially when they smell scandal between a CEO and her chauffeur. The wind rose, the pond's surface rippling with small waves. Nina's boat wobbled, then righted itself, reflecting the crimson fall leaves. Claire pulled her collar tighter. Ryan slid gloved hands into his pockets, his breath clouding white. Opposite them stood Alexander, tie knotted tight, posture rigid, like a marble statue set against the blazing autumn lake. Alexander left, but it was no ending. From behind a stand of trees, the rapid click-click of shutters echoed. A long lens followed them, snapping frame after frame. Claire leaning close to Nina, Ryan beside them, the three of them like a family. An hour later, Claire's phone buzzed. A push notification lit up. "Harborlight CEO and the chauffeur. Pondside affair at Jamaica?" Cover photo. Claire in her scarf, Ryan standing close, Nina clutching the model boat. The phone kept buzzing. A call from Joanna Hastings. Her voice, icy, cut through the speaker. "You're destroying everything." Claire gripped the phone, eyes shut tight. The wind surged, red leaves whirling skyward like shards of broken glass. The fragile family picture just captured, now turned into evidence for the media and her family's condemnation. Public opinion did not die down after the Jamaica pond photos. On the contrary, it swelled even fiercer. Across newspaper columns and social forums, headlines fired like artillery. Claire Hastings finds a rebound right after her failed wedding. Harborlight CEO entangled in an ambiguous relationship with a low-level employee. A security company whose CEO can't even protect her own image. Someone was orchestrating the rhythm. Claire recognized it instantly. And only one man had both the motive and the upper-crust network to pull it off. Alexander Beaumont. An email from the lead sponsor of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum Gala landed in Claire's inbox. In light of recent news, we are reluctant to attach our brand to Harborlight. Unless there is immediate transparency, our sponsorship will be withdrawn. Claire read it, her chest tightening. The gala was the flagship event, the launchpad for Harborlight's new security solution. Losing this sponsor meant collapse before it even began. In the glass-walled boardroom, Claire, Siraj, and May sat around the long table. Outside, the Charles River glittered in autumn sun, unable to dispel the tension. On the screen, a stakeholder map glowed red with warnings. Wavering investors, enterprise clients asking questions, tabloid headlines screaming. An infographic showed brand trust plunging without break. "Alexander is weaponizing the tabloids," May said, fingers flying across keys. We have evidence. The accounts pushing these stories all link back to the Beaumont family's PR firm. But if we retaliate with smears, the public will call it mudslinging. The only way forward is transparency. Expose how they manipulate, and why Harbor Light chooses differently. Claire listened, emotions churning. Part of her wanted to scream, to expose Alexander as the hypocrite, the man who never loved her. But another part, the CEO, hardened by countless crises, knew every word she spoke would be measured against the company's worth. Back in his Back Bay apartment, Ryan watched the news and clenched his jaw. The words rebound, affair with chauffeur made his blood boil, but also planted fear. One day, Nina could read all this. Kids at school already had phones, already whispered. That night, Ryan called Claire. His voice was hoarse. Maybe I should step back. Leave you alone. Keep Nina away from the spotlight. Claire sat alone in her darkened office, streetlight reflections rippling on the glass walls. Ryan, if you step back, they'll take it as a confession. That they were right, that I was just a rebound. I need the truth, not shadows. But I understand. If it's for Nina, I won't blame you. A long silence stretched. Then Ryan spoke softly. I was never afraid in the military. But now I'm afraid. Afraid my daughter will be scarred by something I can't control. The next morning, Siraj summoned Claire. He didn't mince words. You can keep your private life and resign. Or you can stay, but prove that your emotions don't steer this company off course. Your choice? Claire met his gaze. I'll stay. And I'll prove it. Siraj studied her, the corner of his mouth twitching as if, at last, he saw the spark he required in a leader. Not perfection, but the strength to stand in the storm. May pulled up the final slide. Gala equals opportunity. We won't dodge. Claire will speak publicly at the gala. Not with personal attacks, but with something larger. A response tabloids can't twist. Claire leaned back, her heart heavy but clearer. Images of Ryan and Nina flickered in her mind. Nina's drawing still saved on her phone. The princess beside a new castle, holding hands with a man and a small girl. At that moment, her eyes fell on an open file. Lydia Delgado, Ryan's late wife, who had worked in community programs for single parents. Lydia's smile in the photo, radiant with quiet optimism, glowed with faith in something better. An idea sparked. Siraj nodded firmly. Bring the truth to light at the gala. But remember, speak in the language of values, not bitterness. Claire pressed her lips together, her gaze fixed on Lydia's photo. In her mind, fragments began connecting. Harbor Light, Ryan's life, Lydia's legacy, and a new foundation that could redefine the entire narrative. The storm still raged outside, but this time, Claire had chosen to step into its very heart and turn it into opportunity. The gala night opened at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, where golden lights spilled across marbled stone walls, oil paintings gazing solemnly down upon the crowd. The red carpet stretched long, cameras flashing in rapid bursts, guests clad in gowns and tuxedos shimmering with elegance. Claire Hastings entered alone. A navy blue gown sculpted her figure, her hair pinned neatly, her stride steady. Yet every whisper pierced the air like thorns. That's the runaway bride. Who is she with? Alone? After the rebound scandal, she still dares to show up. She kept her back straight, her eyes serene, but her heart thudded, each step across the atrium like walking through a pack of predators. Near the bar, Alexander Beaumont waited, a glass of champagne in hand, his familiar courteous smile framed by cold eyes. Claire! His voice flowed smooth as silk, sharp as a blade. I must commend your bravery. showing your face here. But honestly, since the beginning, I knew you couldn't stand being alone. A rebound is easy. Staying power? Not so much. Claire stood still, her expression calm. Alexander, you're wrong. I've endured loneliness for years. What I can no longer endure is deceit. He shrugged, lips curving into a smirk. We'll see tonight whom the audience chooses to believe. Claire didn't answer. She turned, heels striking a steady rhythm across the marble floor. When the hour struck, lights dimmed. A single spotlight lit the podium. Claire stepped into the warm beam, microphone gleaming in her hand. Hundreds of eyes fixed upon her. Harbor Light was born from a single goal: to build trust in an uncertain world. Her voice rang clear, steady. But I've come to realize, security is not just firewalls or systems. Security is the ability to stand firm when life itself challenges you. She paused, drew a deep breath. The audience held theirs. Today, I am announcing the Lydia Delgado Foundation. On the giant screen behind her, a photo appeared. Lydia's gentle smile, Nina clutching a bouquet in her arms. Murmurs rippled through the hall. This foundation will support single parents with training scholarships and flexible work in the security field. We are partnering with Harvard Extension and Boston area community colleges. Because sometimes, those who have endured loss and still risen again are the ones who truly understand what security means. The room seemed to freeze. Lydia's name resounded, not as a shadow of the past, but as a promise for the future. Suddenly, the screen flickered red. Security alert. The crowd stirred, some fumbling for their phones. The air thickened with unease. May leaned close to Claire, whispering urgently, "False signal." Someone injected it into the system. Before Claire could respond, the side doors opened. A familiar figure strode in, quickly assisting security and calming the crowd. Ryan Delgado. He hadn't entered with Claire. He had been quietly sitting in the back row with Nina. But when the disruption hit, instinct carried him into the light. Please remain calm. His voice carried firm and clear. No microphone needed. This is only a false alert. Security is not the absence of threats. It is knowing someone stands beside you when threats arise. Gradually, murmurs subsided. Breaths slowed. The disruption passed. But the moment became a living demonstration of Claire's words. Claire looked down, saw Ryan near the podium, Nina clutching his hand. Without hesitation, she extended hers. Ryan Delgado, veteran, single father, and the inspiration for the Lydia Delgado Foundation. Ryan, please join me here. Ryan shook his head lightly, as if to refuse. But Nina's clear eyes lifted to his, leaving him no choice. He stepped forward. Beside Claire, in a simple tuxedo, no grand attire, the spotlight turned him into a witness to truth. The hall erupted in applause, not for romance, but for something greater. A CEO willing to place her trust in ordinary decency. Siraj Ahmed rose, walked to the stage, and shook Claire's hand before the entire room. That, he declared, is the language of values. Cameras swung toward Alexander Beaumont. The champagne glass in his hand trembled faintly. The polished smile cracked, exposing raw bitterness he could not conceal. In the museum's golden light, surrounded by centuries of art, Claire stood between Ryan and Nina, her heart surging. For the first time, she no longer felt like she was running. She was choosing. And that choice had just been declared to the world. Morning broke bright over Boston, sunlight gleaming in the early winter air. The public garden stretched out like a painting, red leaves drifting down in waves across the deep green water. Along the brick paths circling the pond, couples strolled, Tourists snapped photos beneath the weeping willows. Nina ran ahead, hair flying, clutching a bundle of paper boats. "Daddy, Miss Claire, come on. I want to let them sail with the swans." Her clear voice carried across the water, louder than the rush of wind. Claire and Ryan walked slowly behind. Beneath the sound of a child's laughter, the air between them held a new peace. No more watchful eyes, no more shadows of Alexander. Only two people who had stopped running, finding a shared rhythm at last. May hurried up, phone in hand. "Good news," she exhaled, smiling with relief. "The sponsor has officially reinstated for the gala, and this morning's press has shifted tone. No more runaway bride. Now it's Claire Hastings turns crisis into opportunity. The Boston Globe headline calls you an inspiring icon of female leadership." Claire scrolled through the headlines, her heart stilling. Everything once used to break her now stood as weapons she had forged for herself. Ryan smiled, but caution still glimmered in his eyes. The media turns fast. They could swing back at any moment, Claire nodded. "True. But this time, I won't let them define me." A black car pulled up near the park gate. Joanna Hastings stepped out, gray wool coat wrapped close, her face stern but her eyes unsteady. She walked forward and stopped before her daughter. "Claire," her voice was low, no longer ice-edged. "I measured wrong for too long. Reputation, position, the names in society. I thought they were everything. But seeing you yesterday, standing firm in the storm, I know I was wrong." Claire stayed silent. Joanna's hand lifted, brushing gently against her daughter's cheek. "If you're happy, then it's right." That's all. Claire's eyes glistened. For the first time in years, she felt that between her and her mother stood not a battlefield, but a fragile bridge being rebuilt. The three of them sat together on a small wooden bridge overlooking the pond. Nina released her paper boats, one by one, drifting gently across the rippling water. On one, scrawled letters spelled Lydia. Claire watched it float away, whispering, "The day I ran from the wedding was the first time I didn't run from myself." Ryan squeezed her hand lightly. "And the first time I stopped running from fear. You and Nina gave me a reason to stay." The wind swirled crimson leaves onto the water around the swans. The scene was simple, yet radiant, like a belated blessing. Nina turned back, eyes sparkling. "So, Miss Claire, are you staying for dinner with us?" Claire glanced at Ryan. He nodded, warm but serious, as though sealing a promise for a new beginning. Claire smiled, whispering, "Best getaway ever." And so this became the story of a bride who seemed to lose everything on her wedding day, but through one bold choice found something far more precious: true love and a family to call her own. What about you? If you were in Claire's place, would you dare to walk away from a false marriage in front of hundreds of people? Or would you go through with it just to save face? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to True Tale Time, and ring the bell so you never miss the next journey. Every week, we bring you stories of love, courage, and life-changing moments you may never have heard anywhere else. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video, where one small choice just might open the door to an entirely new life.